Hey everybody, welcome back to RC with Adam. My name is Adam, and today we're going to be taking a look at this little quadcopter here from Force 1, the Phoenix F111. I think I said that right. And yeah, it's a pretty neat little toy. We're going to toss this on the bench here and take a closer look at it right now. First of all, I just want to let you know that Force 1 did send this to me for testing and review free of charge, so appreciate that. Thank you, Force 1. And also, you know, this is a toy grade quadcopter, so we're not going to be as critical as we would, you know, something else that's more kind of a higher end hobby grade or something like that. So keeping those two things in mind, let's take a look at this little guy. Now, as you can see, it is folded up right now, and that is definitely one of the biggest features about this, and you couldn't fly it from this position, of course, and you'd have to unfold the arms, and you do that by pressing these little buttons and folding the arms out like so, and the arms lock in place, which is pretty neat. In fact, I think that's just like probably the coolest things about this little quadcopter here. And I say little, but really it's actually quite large as far as the footprint. The propellers are they're just about 5 3/4 inches, so they're just under 6 inches across. And then as far as the size of this entire thing, well, there's my hand for comparison. It's about 8 inches square, I would say, from motor to motor. Speaking of the motors, they are a brushed motor, so a small brushed motor. And the way that we're actually able to spin these giant propellers off of a small little motor is it has a little reduction gearing system here, which is pretty cool. So the small gear is actually your drive gear, which is connected to the motor, and the large gear is connected to the propeller, or the propeller shaft, and so it allows the propeller to spin at a slower speed than the actual little motor, which is pretty cool. And so that's pretty neat as far as efficiency wise, and that's why we're able to spin these large propellers and this large of a quadcopter off of a single cell battery. Speaking of the battery, there's a little compartment right here where the battery goes, and it does come with 2 batteries actually. These are single cell, so about 3.7 volt 800 milliamp hour batteries, and you'll get around, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes of flight time off of these, depending on, you know, how cold the air temperature is, and you know, what you're doing with your quadcopter. So somewhere around there. And up top here, you can see we have the on switch, or the on-off switch right there, and you just press and hold that to turn the quadcopter on. So that's kind of a nice feature, that it doesn't turn on as soon as you connect the battery. Also on the bottom here, you'll see that we have a little camera, and this is actually detachable, and this is the little camera for this quadcopter. So here we have actually you can take out the whole thing. This has a little slot for an SD card right here, and you can record directly onto here. And then with this little antenna, this is emitting Wi-Fi, and so you can use the Wi-Fi on your phone to actually receive the image and get a mostly real-time image from the quadcopter straight onto your phone. So there is going to be some lag, and you might experience some crashing or slowness if you are flying right near other houses or places that have Wi-Fi. So do keep that in mind. As far as the image quality, I'll show you some images right here. Not spectacular, but you know, again, we're talking about a toy quadcopter here. This is, you know, not something that you're going to be doing aerial videography with, really. So if you're expecting some sort of crisp, amazing, super smooth footage, that's not what you're going to get here. But if you've never experienced what it's like to have a quadcopter and, you know, fly it, maybe take it up above the trees if you can, and get a bird's eye view, it's actually really cool. So I think for the intended user here, I think that's actually it's a really neat thing, and you know, it can definitely be something that can spark an interest in aerial videography. So that is pretty cool. Now, as far as the camera, if you want to, what I was playing around with was actually attaching this Mobius camera. This is kind of just an older action camera, and this weighs about 45 grams. So I was attaching it here on the bottom, and so I could actually record with the Mobius here and get much better footage. I mean, this Mobius still doesn't have very good quality footage compared to like a GoPro, but it's still better than what's on here, what comes with the camera. So this way, if you have an action camera, or you could probably get an action camera that's a pretty decent video quality for $20-$30 off of Amazon or something, and you could just attach it on here and get some better shots. I will say that the onboard camera does have, it takes much better still pictures. The image quality is better with the still as opposed to the video. Also, there you can see there are a little this whole clear gear cover is pretty neat, and you can see that there are little LEDs right there. This red in the back and green, I believe it's green in the front. So in addition to the quadcopter, it does come with 2 batteries, comes with a spare set of propellers and a little screwdriver and little propeller screws, as well as a set of prop guards that snap in place to protect the sides of the propellers. The nice thing is that these propellers are not really, they're not too hazardous as far as you still want to keep your fingers away from them, but because they are spinning quite relatively slowly, there's not too much risk of really chopping your fingers off or anything, but you do want to, of course, always exercise proper safety whenever we're talking about spinny things. And it comes, of course, with the transmitter here, because this is a ready-to-fly package. So we have the transmitter here, and we've got all our buttons here. We have our flip button, which you need to press down, and then you move your right stick in whichever direction you want to flip the quadcopter, which is a pretty neat little, kind of just a little novel feature there. It is pretty neat to see it do flips. And then we have our speed setting, or kind of our rate setting, or I guess you could say the sensitivity of the quadcopter there, which has low, medium, and high. Then we have our headless mode, which allows the quadcopter to basically, no matter the orientation of the quadcopter, if it was sideways like this and I push forward, so like away from me on this stick, the quadcopter would move in that direction. So, and then we have the this little button which turns on and off the LED lights on the quadcopter. Also for trim, so if we want to make small adjustments to the basically hovering position of the quadcopter, we would press in the throttle stick here, the left stick, we'd press it inward, and then we would make the adjustments on the right stick, whichever way we want the quadcopter to move. And for the automatic takeoff and landing, we press in the right stick and it will take off if it's already on the ground, or it will land if it is in the air. And as far as the emergency shutoff, you take both sticks and bring them inwards and down like so, and then that will shut off the propellers. So if it was flying, it would just fall out of the sky. So don't inadvertently do that while you're flying. Now, something that I will say I really did like about this quadcopter is that it really is pretty easy to fly and get started. So it comes with a good instruction manual, and it tells you about all the different controls and how to control the quadcopter, and it tells you about the app and the app controls. So this does have an app, as it shows in the manual, and you can control it with the app, but I really don't like to, because there's no tactile feel. You can't really feel what these little things here that represent the transmitter sticks, what they're doing. So I find that really difficult, because you really have to look down at your phone and see what you're doing, and then whether or not your quadcopter is responding to that. So for me personally, I will stick to the transmitter. So this quadcopter is, I think it would be good for a beginner. It is definitely pretty easy to get set up and flying, and one of the features that it does have is altitude hold, or I should say altitude assist. It has a little pressure sensor in here, and it can keep the quadcopter at relatively the same height. So if it might go up and down a little bit based on if there's wind, or if it gets a pocket of warm air or cold air, but generally it will stay in the same position. So that is good for learning how to fly. Not so great if you want to learn to manage your throttle. And speaking of the throttle, I will say that, or I'll just point out here that on your transmitter, so this is your throttle up and down like that, but it is, unlike some other transmitters, it is centered. So it's a spring loaded to return to center. And so that basically means your quadcopter is going to hover at about that height, and if you want it to go up, you press up, and if you want it to go down, you press down, and then once you finish, or once you want it to stop at the height that it's at, you just release the stick, and it should stop right about there. And then on this left stick as well, we have our yaw control, left and right, which will rotate the quadcopter like this. Now, I will say that I found that the yaw control is not super great. It's a little stiff. So you might, the quadcopter won't do much until you get to a certain point, and then it will go whoa, and then whoa, and so it's a little bit, I don't know, it's not super fine, not super smooth. So probably the best way to control that is to just do little bursts of yaw, and it will kind of get it a little bit finer movements there. And then over here on the right stick, we have our pitch and forward and backward, which is going to make the quadcopter fly forward or backwards. And then our roll, left and right, which will make the quadcopter go to the side left or to the side right. And whenever you start out flying, you always want to keep the quadcopter oriented the way that you're facing. So if you're facing this direction, you want your quadcopter, with the camera right there, to be facing that same direction and keep it that way. Because if you're just getting started, it's going to be really difficult to try and fly back towards yourself, or maybe if it's to the side or something like that. So I would just keep it oriented that way, and that is kind of where the headless mode comes in. But for me personally, I don't really ever use headless mode, so that's kind of weird to me, but because I'm just not used to it. Another little feature about the quadcopter is it does have low battery auto land, which is nice. So if your battery is depleted and you're flying around, it won't just drop out of the sky. It'll just descend fairly rapidly, but it will come down and not just totally fall out of the sky uncontrolled. So that is nice that you have that low battery auto land. And like I touched on before, you do have the streaming video from the camera to your phone, but you really you always want to fly this line of sight, because since it is Wi-Fi, there's going to be lag, so there's going to be a difference in the time between your quadcopter actually moves in a certain direction and then you see it on your phone screen. And then also, in case the app or your phone crashes, then you're not going to see what your quadcopter's seeing at all. So you'll definitely just want to fly this line of sight and just kind of use the streaming Wi-Fi as kind of a reference to just kind of see what exactly your quadcopter is pointed at. All right, now let's take this thing outside and do a little flight demo.
So first thing we're going to do is set it on a relatively level surface, just like that, and then we are going to power it on. Press and hold the power button, and let's see, there should be some lights lighting up. Yep, the lights are lighting up, so it is on. And then what we're going to do, now we're going to get go into our phone here, and then I'm going to set up the Wi-Fi. Okay, so now what I've done is I've made sure that we select the Wi-Fi that's coming from the quadcopter, and I've got the app going right here, and I'm going to go ahead and start the app. I'm going to select remote controller control, and you can see we do have a signal here. Now, then I'm going to turn on the transmitter. Now, there have been some times when I've turned on the transmitter and then the motors just start, so I'm not sure why that is, but just make sure your fingers are away from the propellers. So we're going to turn this guy on. Okay. All right. So nothing has happened as it should. At this point, we're pretty much we're ready to fly, and we can either take off using the pressing for the takeoff, or we can just press up on the throttle stick, and that'll just bring us to an idle here. And I'll go ahead and hit record on the app. I know the sun's kind of harsh, but that's winter for you. And it says we're recording down there at the bottom left of the screen on the phone there. And now I'll just go ahead and raise the throttle. There we go. There we go. Not too bad. This thing is pretty lightweight, so it's quite susceptible to wind. But so you can see, for the most part, the throttle hold does keep it, the altitude hold does keep it at generally the right height. but where you're going to run into some issues is with wind and pressure differential, or maybe you'll hit warm pockets of air, and that'll change kind of the height that it thinks it's at and cause you to balloon up or descend, kind of like that. So you can see I'm using the right stick to just kind of fight that wind, and then we can, let's see, so this is the max, that was the low mode. This is the high mode here. Let me try and get a little bit into the shade for you. So you can see we have a decent amount of bank right there. Yeah, so anyway, you have that, and so when the wind is calm, it'll actually hover quite well, just like that. And then let's bring it up and try out the little flip button, because I actually have not tried that out. So maybe, oh, there we go, press and hold. Ah, okay, so you press and hold the flip button, and then it will kind of like vibrate continually, and then you just, that's pretty neat. That's actually pretty neat. That's kind of cool. Oh, it does front flips too. That's pretty cool. So that's kind of neat. It's just kind of a fun feature. Most people wouldn't expect something like this to be doing flips, so that's kind of cool. And then we do have, let's see here, I'm going to run out of battery soon. Let me show you so if I wanted to land it, what I could do is just bring the throttle all the way down, and that will just land it like that. And then, and right now it's sort of on standby, I guess you could say. Let's see, let's stop this recording, because that was about 4 minutes. And then let's just, so for takeoff, you can just press and hold, or press the right stick inward to do auto takeoff or auto land. So let's give that a try. There we go. And we got a little bit of wind kind of pushing us back, but it brings it up to about this height, which is pretty good. Now, let me bring this up here. And the thing, so I want you to be able to see this app here. So you can see that the quality is not good, which is to be expected, but there's also a lot of lag. So if I'm going one direction, I'm not actually gonna see where I am real time. It's close to real time, but there could be interruptions and stuff. So, but we do get a better look at what we're actually seeing, and I can take pictures. And I will say the pictures look much better than the actual video. So I'll start a video recording here. And so you see how it froze up like that, because it's because it it had to I don't know, basically it was just working extra hard to start the video, and so it actually froze up. So that's not ideal. So now we can't actually see what we're recording. We should be recording. I think we're recording. Let's try this again. Let's tap it and stop the recording. See, we're still frozen up. So this is an example. This is not uncommon with Wi-Fi streaming quadcopters. So this is why you need to keep this in mind, and not actually try to fly using this screen. So you always want to be able to see your quadcopter and control it. So let's go ahead and press that auto land button. And as it's landing, we can control it with the right stick for pitch and roll. And it does take a little while for it to actually land. There we go, and then it shuts off because it has to figure out that it's on the ground. So yeah, so those are some of your basic controls and kind of how it goes. You can see we're still frozen up here, so that is a downside. But I'm going to restart this app. And in fact, let's just start it back up and see if we can get a signal again. I don't know if we might need to reconnect with the Wi-Fi, so we'll do that. So there you go. That's basically how to control this thing. And then when we turn it off, I'm just going to. You want to make sure that you stop your video. If your video is going, you want to stop it before you turn off your quadcopter. We're going to press and hold the power button, and the lights should turn off, and they are. And then we're going to turn off our transmitter there.
Well, everybody, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you if you were thinking about getting one of these little quadcopters. If you are interested in purchasing this one, I will have a link in the description below to Amazon. And if I can get any coupon codes or discounts for you, I will put those in the description as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.